Alrighty, I'm going to kick it off. So my name's Eve. I'm a cosplayer from Sydney. Not that you could tell by the way I'm dressed this evening for comfort, but I'm joined by some of the most well-known, some of the most talented and accomplished cosplayers in the country tonight, who also happen to be all lovely, eloquent women. Hi.
Yeah. Hello. Eloquent.
So, rather than me stand here and gush about you, I'll get you to introduce yourselves and say a little bit about how long you've been cosplaying.
I'll start. My name's Johnston. I've been cosplaying for a couple of years, 3 years, about that. I love cosplaying Wonder Woman, and I have a bit of a ridiculous goal to make every Wonder Woman costume from every design that she's ever had, except for that weird period in the 90s with the G-string thing, because that's never going to happen. But essentially, I love the idea of just bringing that character that I use as a role model to life for kids, and being at conventions and the fantastic friends that I've made through cosplay. So yeah, that's me in cosplay.
I'm Black Cat, also known as Lucky, cosplayer from Sydney, like most of these lovely ladies actually, bar one. I'm currently podcasting for SBS, talking about all the geeky things and what makes being a geek great. I've been cosplaying for about 8 or so years now, and I found that my style of cosplay has drastically changed over those years. I started cosplaying as anime characters and manga characters, boys mostly. And then one day I decided that I'd give cosplaying as girls a go, and it seemed to go pretty well. So I've just been doing it ever since. I'm kind of a junk rat cosplayer when it comes to putting things together. I'm not the best seamstress. I don't claim to be the best person at making armor or anything like that, so I try and bring my own style to things by finding things and painting stuff, and yeah, it's kind of a Frankenstein's monster scenario for me when it comes to cosplay.
I'm Ardella. I've been cosplaying for 10 years now, and I have done more than 50 different costumes in that time, which basically means I have very little life outside of cosplay. I have been lucky enough to be asked to do promo work for companies like Blizzard and Universal through my cosplaying, and my day-to-day job has actually come from cosplaying as a hobby as well, so I'm really fortunate in that.
I'm Major Sam, and I come from Brisbane. I've been cosplaying since 2011, so I'm still considered kind of new. I'm more of a competitive cosplayer, and I recently just won the championships of cosplay in Chicago.
World champion.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Literally like the global champion of cosplay.
Yeah, and that was really interesting. So I got to go to Chicago and LA, and now back here in sunny Queensland.
Awesome. So, I'm not going to do the question. Every cosplay panel ever, we get the, what's your favorite costume? And that's an impossible question because everyone loves every costume that they make in a different way, whether it be the journey of making it, whether that be happiness or tears, or it be the experience that you had wearing it. So what I want to know is more about the way you guys approach making costumes. So what's your strong point? What kind of defines the way that you go about cosplay?
Well, funnily enough, seeing as though I'm not wearing any of it right now, I really love working with leather. So when I first made armor for my first cosplay, which was Injustice Wonder Woman, I knew nothing about cosplayer. I didn't know anything about any other cosplayers. I didn't know that there are tutorials on the internet using materials like Warbler and foam and stuff that's cheap and easy. So I looked up how to make armor out of leather and like wet formed leather, and made actual armor that if someone stabbed me, it would protect me, which is ludicrous, and I highly recommend doing it because it's so much fun and it's not that expensive, but I just really love working with it. So when I look at the Wonder Woman costumes, because that's really all I look at anymore, I do look at which elements I can use leather in and what different techniques I can use with leather, you know, be it just carving and stamping or doing the wet forming, and yeah, there's different ways that you can make it harder or softer depending on your needs, and yeah, there's lots of exciting things to do with it. It's my favorite material to work with.
Like I said before, I'm kind of a lost and found cosplayer. I really like painting. It was my strong point when I was in high school. I did a lot of arts and crafts. I did design technology. And so I like to find ways to incorporate weathering into my costumes a lot. And I have a tendency to pick quite grungy characters because I feel like that plays to my strengths when it comes to weathering and painting things, so yeah.
I love stretch material. If I can possibly make something out of Lycra, I'm going to make it out of Lycra. I find that stretch material works really well when you are beginning, which is something that a lot of seamstresses and cosplayers will say the complete opposite of. I just find it much easier to fit over curves, which is something that I have in spades. I find that stretch material is really something that lends itself well to being manipulated without any real knowledge of how to fit clothes properly. You can look amazing in spandex when you'd look awful in non-stretch clothes, I promise. So stretch is definitely the way to go for me.
I hate using stretch material. I'm sorry. I like to do really well-fitted. I love corsetry. I love manipulating my body shape to suit what my character is, and I love the tailoring and the fine finishing and the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of beading and embroidering and just the stuff that most people sort of turn their nose up into and think, oh, that's a lot of time, but for some reason I really like it. But, you know, I love crafting. I get home from work, I craft for 6 hours, I go to sleep, I go to work, craft for 6 hours, so that's sort of my life.
Repeat till cry.
My favourite part of cosplay is just the time and the doing the little things. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, how many people in the crowd have cosplayed before? Put your hands up. So about half of you, and so I'm assuming the other half of you, have you ever thought about dressing up? Put your hand up if you have. Most of you have, yeah. So one of the things that I've found in cosplay is that what you get out of it long term is not usually what you ever expected. So whether it be the skills or the friends or the crazy life experiences, is there something that you've gotten out of getting into cosplay that you never thought in a million years would happen?
Yeah, I didn't think that I'd make a whole new group of friends. Absolutely not. Like, I didn't realize that the cosplay community was so full of people, or even that it was a community. Even that, you know, there were people that would go, hey, you know, I like what you're doing. How did you do that? Like, I assumed that there'd be some sort of underlying weird competitive thing going on, and I'm not really a competitive person. And I found the opposite. I found cosplayers really welcoming and open and willing to share their insights. I thought that they would be heavily guarded secrets as to how people have crafted things, and I'm just going to have to like ask them politely and hope that maybe they reveal stuff. But you walk up to any cosplayer at a convention and ask them how they made something, they will talk to you forever about that because they've discovered it in some way or they're so proud of it. So striking up conversations with other cosplayers was surprisingly easy, especially if you're wearing something from a similar or the same fandom. It's like a shining neon beacon across the other side of the room of someone that loves something as much as you do. So making friends in cosplay is so much easier than what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same vein with you there. A lot of the time you hear stories about cosplayers who were bullied in school, and I was bullied as well. Like, you know, I'm from Western Sydney, and growing up, if you didn't play sport, or if you know, weren't particularly smart, if you weren't good at something, then you were usually picked on for it. And so I was the kid in the library at lunchtime reading comics. And kind of
library kids.
Hey. And just kind of stayed away from people. And then when I found out about cosplay, I couldn't believe that there were people out there who were dressing up as the characters that I was reading about. And I was just stoked that there were other people out there. And I'm like, I have to be a part of this. I have to get to know these people. And ultimately, the people sitting on stage with me now are my friends. And look at us, we're all just dressed up and we spend hours on these costumes and we cry and we laugh and it's super cool. And it's just, it's exciting to be friends with, you know, people who've built careers out of this and people who are world champions now, and it's just, I don't know, it's super exciting. I think cosplay just brings out the best in people all of the time and makes you feel a sense of humanity and community, and yeah, it makes me all gives me the feels, like pretty super hard. So
Welcome to the Cosplay Feels Hour.
Oh, got warm and fuzzies everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about anyone else, but many, many years ago when I was very small, this game came out called Warcraft 3. And Warcraft 3 was the best thing that happened to my childhood. I used to play it with my family all the time, back when LAN was a thing. And about 2 years ago now, a year ago now, just over a year ago, Blizzard actually contacted me and asked me to cosplay for the launch of Heroes of the Storm, which is their new game, sort of like a LOL thing, but better, I promise. And they said, who do you want to cosplay as? I said Jaina Proudmoore, and I almost died at the fact that this company, who had brought so many years of joy into my life, was asking me and recognizing me as someone who enjoys cosplaying as characters that they've already created and sort of collaborating like that. The opportunity to collaborate with creators who have made some incredible things and affected so many different lives has been absolutely insane to me, and it continues to be insane to me to this day.
I'm going to bring back the warm and fuzzies with the whole friends thing that comes from cosplayers. You know, I didn't have that many friends in high school as well. We're kind of weird, a bit different, which is great because we can be weird and different together. But one of the things that really showed me, I'm going to cry now, was when I was in Chicago. I didn't have any friends over there. All my friends are back here, but they live streamed it. And from what I've seen and heard is that literally all of Australia was watching
Literally
me.
Everyone was watching.
And the whole live stream chat was just for me. And when I got back to my hotel room and looked at my phone, Facebook was just me. And I'm like, this is really, really strange. Is my phone broken? And that's when I realized that cosplay has the most incredible, supportive people that I've ever met. I've never had that. I used to do lots of sport, never really had the support from my friends at sport. Cosplay, it's like just tidal wave of support, washed away. And then I came back home and it was just incredible. Like, I can't think of any other sport or hobby that you can compete somewhere and have so much support from everyone.
We were all so proud. Like, we were all like, there were just lounge rooms of people all over the country watching this live stream, just like, ah, yes!
It was like our version of
Do you
State
think
of
she's
Origin.
got it with it? And there's like this big
Yeah, it's the
gap.
closest thing we have to the Olympics, basically.
I had all these people messaging me saying that their mums wanted to adopt me. I've been adopted by 3 mothers that I have never met. And I've had other people say, oh, my mum says that she wishes I was like you. And I'm like, well, that's a bit off. Yes. They wanted to adopt me because I was the better daughter.
So speaking of going overseas and experiencing cosplay in the States, one of the things that I think might be relevant to this audience is what it's like to be a cosplayer in Australia. So like the difficulties that we face and the advantages that we have being in Australia, and how this community sort of has its own identity, and really cosplay in Australia is its own sort of unique thing. So do you guys have any insight into that? How is the Australian cosplay scene unique?
What I find more about the Australian side of cosplay is it is actually a lot more friendly and just a little bit more relaxed and a bit happy. So I went to C2E2 in Chicago, then the following weekend I went to WonderCon in LA, and I just found that in Australia you can go up to a photographer and go, hey, do you mind if you take my photo? And they'll just say yes, like straight away. Didn't find that in America. It was a little bit more, everyone was a little more uptight, but I think that's just the actual Australian way, is just to be a little bit more relaxed. You're there to have a good time, and I'm more happy to cosplay in Australia than in America. Like, nothing against Americans, but I think they're quite serious and very, I'm here to cosplay. Whereas here we're like, we'll just do whatever, Australian.
I think from my experience, I haven't cosplayed overseas at all, but something that I feel like might be unique to Australia is the way that we band together in terms of gaining materials. Because we are so isolated from the rest of the world, like, I don't think I've ever ordered a wig that wasn't part of a group wig order so that we could save on shipping. Because the shipping costs of materials and just gaining access to stuff is so hard that we rely on each other in that way. So I don't know, I think that might be unique.
Definitely. Cosplayers in Australia are so resourceful. Like, when we have international guests come for shows here and they'll be judging competitions, and they're like, I can't believe this person made this entire costume out of stuff that was in their kitchen. Like, particularly overseas, it's so much easier to get access to materials like thermoplastics or whatever it may be, that they don't sort of realize how easy it would be to make it out of what's right in front of them. Whereas we have to do that.
When I was in LA, if no one knows too much about LA, there's the LA Fashion District, which is this small little, almost a suburb in LA, which is literally just fabric stores. There is nothing else, there is fabric stores. And they have so many rolls and rolls of fabric that is spilling out onto the streets. And to go into a store to find a fabric that you're after, you're stepping over rolls. And then you can barter with them and saying, oh, I need this much, and they'll keep bartering you down until you actually buy it. We don't have that in Australia. We only have your limited fabric and your choice, and you make do with what you have. But that, you learn more skills from that, because you think, oh, I can't get that color, I might have to dye my fabric, so you learn how to dye. So I think we really do use what we have, and that's all we got. But it teaches you as well. It forces you to do something different because you don't have access to said fabric.
So before I run down into the audience and start asking you guys what your questions are, so get some in your head, if you guys could give some advice to, say, anyone in the crowd who hasn't cosplayed before or someone who's just started, what would it be?
I would say try not to take yourself too seriously. If you want to cosplay, that's your decision, and you should be doing it for you. If you set about trying to become big and famous, that's all well and good. But you'll have a lot more fun if you just let yourself relax, take your time, do what it is that you want to cosplay. Like, I'm cosplaying as a rhino. Who picks that? I picked it, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this because my friend is gonna be Bebop, and we're gonna have fun, and we're just gonna hang out. We're gonna go to Haven, and it's gonna be sweet. Like, just don't take yourself too seriously, and don't be afraid to do cosplays that might be a bit daunting as well. Like, you might look at something and think, I can't make that. Yeah, if you work on it hard enough and you give yourself enough time and you try, you can absolutely. Yeah, and don't ask what time is.
No, time's that thing that other people have.
Don't scare them. Don't scare them. You've got plenty of time. You can make the thing. You're not going to cry too much or cut yourself or fall down and trip over and break heels and just drift off into despair.
Gabby, come back to us.
Yeah.
Come back.
Don't take yourself too seriously and have a lot of fun. That's it.
I think that cosplaying is something that you're really passionate about is always the way to go, because you will make mistakes, and mistakes are important. Mistakes are how you learn. If you make a costume and nothing goes wrong, you haven't learned anything from it. If you make a costume and everything goes wrong, but you're passionate about the character that you're trying to portray, then you will continue, you will persevere, and you will have a blast no matter where you're wearing it, even if the seams are falling apart, even if it's all held together with hot glue. If you're portraying a character that you love, it won't matter at the end of the day because you'll feel awesome.
Advice for those who want to do either really elaborate costumes or the perfect costume or the historically accurate costume or a competitive costume is that be prepared that it's going to take a lot of time. So if one thing is going to take a lot of time, it has to take a lot of time. Don't cut corners. It never makes you happy. You won't be happy in the end. You won't get the product that you're after. Just prepare to put the time and the patience and the effort into something, and no matter what it looks like in the end, you know that you've put all your effort into it and you'll be happy.
I think no matter if you look at a cosplayer and you think, oh man, like everyone knows who they are, they're super like unapproachable, don't think that. We're all the same. All cosplayers are exactly the same. And if you want to come up to anyone and say, hey, how did you make this? How did you do this? Can I get some advice? No one's going to say, no, go away. That's just not going to be a thing that's going to happen. So don't be afraid to go up to other cosplayers and ask for advice. But one bit of advice that I will give is that choose a character that you love and that you want to cosplay, but also be aware of who the audience for that character is. In my example as Wonder Woman, I get a lot of little girls coming up to me, and to some of them who are quite young, I am Wonder Woman to them, and that comes with a responsibility. So if you are cosplaying as a hero and there's kids walking around at a convention looking up to you, try and at least embody a bit of that character to keep that alive for them, and you'll have a much better experience. Maybe cut back on the swearing. That's a good one.
I do a lot of Disney princesses, so you'll do the princess thing, you do the princess smile, you do princess hand.
Because there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing like a little girl go up to like a princess and they're like, oh, what are you doing? Like,
don't make them cry.
You've got to attract those kids, and just enjoy it and run with it. It's so much fun.
All right, guys, if you've got a question, just chuck your hand up. And to keep this going, when another question ends, feel free to put your hand up and I'll come and find you.
Afternoon, ladies. So I'm pretty new to the cosplay thing. So I've just got a question. Are there any sort of limits or rules on what you can and can't cosplay as? Like, does it have to be just comic book characters or video game characters or anything like that? Is there more to it than that?
So I just caught the end of that then. It could be anything you want. It can be an original character, it can be a D&D character, it can be anything.
Cool, because I'm pretty new to this, and a lot of people have actually been asking me who am I cosplaying as. I'm here as the Undertaker from the WWE, so...
There are actually a lot of wrestling cosplayers. Wrestling and the geek community has got this huge crossover. There's a lot of video game fans, a lot of cosplay fans, a lot of comic fans that also love the theatricality of wrestling, and that lends itself to cosplay quite a lot. And I have heard like the wrestlers love it as well when they see people on Instagram doing it. But no, cosplay, I don't think so. Not limited to any genre at all. Like, you can cosplay someone off TV, movies, comics, video games, whatever you want.
I've recently gotten really into cosplaying from musical theatre productions, particularly because they lend themselves to being adjusted to suit different body shapes, because that's what they do in theatre as well. So you've got a lot of different productions that you can pick and choose from when it comes to musical theatre. You can cosplay anything that you can think of.
Hey, so what's the go when you create a cosplay and you buy most of it? Because so for time, is there like, do people judge you differently because you buy something compared to making something?
If somebody judges you for that, then you don't need that kind of negativity in your life, and you just leave. You just walk away from that person. As somebody who buys a lot of their stuff, I'm not good at sewing. And a lot of the time I struggle to look at things and think, how am I going to make that? So I might go to Vinnie's and I might buy a jacket and cut the sleeves off and paint it and whatever. And that's totally okay. Cosplay doesn't have these rules that people seem to make up all the time, where, you know, you have to have perfect seams, or, you know, you have to make everything yourself. It's whatever it is that you want it to be in the end. It's your decision to do it. So you can go about it however you want. And if somebody's going to judge you on that, then that person's wrong. You're not wrong for doing what you want to do the way you want to do it, especially in cosplay. I think this is a hobby that gives you so much free reign about your creativity and how you go about making things. So if you want to buy a Zentai suit, which I did for my Deadpool cosplay, and then I learned how to airbrush it with a friend, and, you know, made some weapons for it, that's fine. Like, I didn't make the suit, but I put my own spin on it in the end, and I'm learning a lot every day. Every time I alter something, I feel like I've learned something as well. So it's totally okay.
I've got to say, as someone who started mostly in cosplay by taking stuff and cutting it up, you learn so much about how garments work, and you'll find you're learning how to sew when you're doing that anyway. So if you do want to learn how to sew, buying stuff is a good place to start.
I have a slogan that I feel like I need a big banner, and it says, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. That is all I have to say about cosplay. If you are getting a costume on, it doesn't matter where it came from, if you made it, if you bought it, if your friend gave it to you, if you're putting a costume on and you are enjoying yourself, that's absolutely all there is to it.
Yeah, literally the only time that there will be an exception to this is if you're entering a craftsmanship competition. That is the only time that someone will say, did you make this? And it matters in any way whatsoever. Other than that, it's fine, go for it.
Hi. So I was just wondering what your plans for the future are, like what costumes you have coming up or anything like that.
World domination, does that count? No? Then I got nothing.
You don't have any plans, no plans.
I've got one plan, I'm working towards it. It doesn't involve cosplay, it's world domination. Don't tell anyone.
Well, I've got in the works the battle armor Wonder Woman when she goes down to Hades in New 52, the one with like the armadillo arm. So that's been in the works for quite a while because I made the front part of the breastplate and it's just been sitting there because I've been so busy. But yeah, eventually every iteration of Wonder Woman ever, eventually.
I'm currently working on Evie Fry from Assassin's Creed, and because I'm a bit nuts, and I like to do things the hard way, I am actually making her in a historically accurate way, so as her clothes would have been in 1890s when she would have worn it. So as you see on the game, she's just wearing like a shirt and a vest and a jacket and pants. Well, I'm actually making an undershirt, I'm making the corset, I'm making the shirt over the top, I'm making the vest, I'm making the correct underwear. I'm doing it as accurately as I can because that's my enjoyment. So that's I'm hand embroidering everything. I've got a machine that prints my embroidery for me, but I've decided to put that aside and print it the way that they did it back then, which takes about 7 hours to print. But for some reason, that's fun, and it's
You're
just
crazy.
yeah, I'm crazy.
You're a crazy person.
But you know, it's making me really enjoy this costume. It's challenging me. I'm learning things. I'm learning, you know, how clothes are made back then, and I'm discovering from this why clothing has progressed from 150 years ago to why it is now, and that's just really interesting, and that's what I love to focus on. So that's my next project.
My costumes are getting gradually more elaborate and bigger and bigger and bigger as I'm going along. For this year, I'm entering the Oz Comic Con Championships of Cosplay again in a peacock dress, which is a huge dress from Love Never Dies, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical sequel to Phantom of the Opera, and it's insane, and I'm already hating myself for deciding that's what I wanted to do.
There's a lot of beads.
I was going to swear. There's that many beads that I can't describe how many there are without swearing. I'm not going to do that.
As far as my plans go for actual cosplay and not world domination, I remembered that I had one. I've always been a big fan of the Halo series, and everyone expected me to make a Master Chief cosplay, and I said, nope, I'm gonna be the 8-foot-tall alien arbiter from Halo 2. I'm gonna look into some puppeteering for the face, and how I'm gonna transform myself into this giant alien with, the glowing devil sword. So yeah.
But in the meantime, He-Man.
Yeah, He-Man. Can you believe it? When your friend says, hey bro, what do you want to cosplay? And you say, oh yeah, I don't know, what do you want to do? And he says, well, we should do Skeletor and He-Man. I'm like, I could do Skeletor. He's like, no, you're He-Man. I'm like, but, and he's, I'm like, okay, all right, so I'm going to be She-Man, basically a barbarian version of He-Man as a woman. I don't know how it makes sense, but hey, that's me doing the cosplay that I want to do for whatever reason, so.
Hi, I just wanted to know what costume took the longest and how long did it take?
Sam?
Yeah, just look at me. So the longest costume, my two longest costumes were Carlotta from Phantom of the Opera, which took 10 weeks. And that was a really, really hard 10 weeks. That was the proper go to work, come home, go to work, come home, work. That was 10 weeks for that one, but my longest was Julieta, which is the one that I won with in Chicago, and that took 3 months, and that was non-stop. So that was, I didn't go to social gatherings, which was very naughty of me. I probably should have got out of the house at least once, but I didn't. That was very intensive. It was probably about 300 hours of beading, plus making all the undergarments, which took 2 weeks of my holidays making just the undergarments for it, which you never saw. And then it was about 100 hours of dyeing fabric. I dyed all the fabric. Making 2 corsets, the wig work. I had this massive headdress. Warbler work. I had puppetry hands. I had this back piece that hung off me that had light up skulls and everything. And yeah, 3 months of just solid work.
So for the Sydney leg of the same competition last year, I created Glinda's bubble dress from Wicked, which had, let's do the numbers, 20,000 individually hand-sewn sequins on it. It had over, I think it was 26 off the top of my head, individual petals on the skirt. It also had a big back piece, which looked like a giant metal bubble, and it blew bubbles with electronic bubble blowers out the side as I walked along.
It was so magical.
It was. I cried, actually.
I actually cried.
I decided that I wanted to make the Glinda bubble dress, and then I realized other people had already made the bubble dress, and I was like, oh, I want to be the first person. What has no one else done? No one else has made an actual bubble that follows them around and blows bubbles out the side. Let's make that a thing. So I made that a thing, and that took 9 months on and off. I had 2 costumes that I did in between those 9 months, but yeah, all up, about 9 months of work.
3 days. No, seriously, 3 days. That's it. That's the longest costume.
Everyone's different, and that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not at all the craftsman.
You're actually sensible.
Yeah. No, I'm just lazy. Hey. I pick characters that are realistic for me to make in time for conventions. So a lot of the time I play it super lazy, and I'll come home after work and I'll sit around and I'll eat Doritos for about 4 hours, and I say, I'll work on cosplay for 20 minutes now.
4 hours worth of Doritos to eat?
Don't you?
No.
I've got this partnership with Doritos. No, I don't. I wish.
Make it happen.
No, make it rain. Cheese dust everywhere. But I've always had this really relaxed approach to cosplay, and I've never really tried to stress myself out about it. And I cosplay for fun mostly. I've never entered a competition before. I never plan to enter a competition, unless I make that alien, in which case, yes, I want to be huge on stage. But yeah, I just don't stress myself out, and I take it really easy, and yeah, I think like 3 days is the longest I've ever properly.
Like?
Yeah, I never know. It's good. It's so good. I'm a rhino. It's great. Living the rhino life. I eat Doritos.
I'm a huge procrastinator, so while something might take about 6 weeks, if I actually just sat down and did it, it probably would take me a couple of weekends. But I make an element of a costume, and then I try and work out how I'm going to make the next part, because I don't have any formal training. I learn everything that I know off YouTube. I also had a friend that was teaching me how to sew. So my first costume probably took the longest, because I was learning so many different new techniques, including like the leather stuff and the sewing stuff and all of these things. But yeah, like I think, look, one of the when I actually think about it though, my bombshell Wonder Woman, which is essentially a pair of stretchy pants and a shirt, probably took me the longest to get done, just because I would look at it and go, I don't know how to make this bit look like this, so I'm just going to sit it aside for like a month and go do other things.
I remember we talked for like 2 weeks about you making that collar.
Right?
I talked about it.
I'm like, this collar is just like, I think I'm going to do this, and then I'd try something for half an hour and then just put it aside for another week. Pretty much. It's like, that's today's effort. I'll come back to this later.
Yeah, I made FemShep from Mass Effect. That was back when professional cosplay was my full-time job, and it took like 2.5 weeks of like every day, and basically almost made me an alcoholic, because I was just drinking the whole time to try and get
You drank while you made cosplay?
Well, I had to, it was like mind-numbing stuff at that point. It was like wrapping stuff in vinyl, so it was like ridiculous. But I had to get it finished before I flew out to London to wear it for a show, and it was crazy. That was really difficult. But that's like the longest sustained like hours and hours and hours. It was really bad. Anyway, on that note.
I just love that you were like, how can I make this more interesting? Cider.
Yeah. I was also watching like 4 seasons of Supernatural.
You know what?
great.
Like, I talk to a lot of cosplayers because I host the Australian Championships of Cosplay, so I do talk to a lot of cosplayers about how long it takes them to do things. Sometimes they won't know how long it took in hours or weeks or months, but they'll know in seasons of television shows that they're watching while they're crafting.
Basically,
like-
if you're going to be a cosplayer, you should get Netflix.
Yeah, they're like these pauldrons took like season 1 of Buffy, you know, there's these.
That took a case of beer, that took a case of beer, couple bottles of
So
wine.
now that we're promoting alcoholism, that's where we're going to wrap up the cosplay panel. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you have any questions, if you see these guys around, like Ray said, feel free to go up and ask questions about costumes because we want as many people in this community to be cosplaying as possible. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, ladies. You're all amazing.
Thank you.
Cheers.